call the meeting to order, and we have 4 items. This is a regular meeting of council once a year to set our agenda and schedule of meetings and appointments to committees. In the attached agenda, council members, you will have seen my recommendations for appointments for deputy mayor, standing committees of council, and appointments to boards and committees. I'll just note that the only changes were to the rotation of the deputy mayor schedule. We ensured that all council members had a different time than they did this year. And then there was two changes to committees with Councillor O'Toole and Councillor Logan swapping responsibilities for disabled transportation and Peace Library System. So other than that, we're keeping the same appointments as we had at the start of the term. But we do have to do this formal piece of business once a year, and so I'd look for a motion to first adopt the recommendations for appointment of deputy mayor. Thank you. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move that we accept the mayor's recommendations for appointment of deputy mayor.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on those appointments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Rice, did you have a question?
I did. Councillor Clayton had emailed with a concern. Does this new schedule take her concern into?
No, Councillor Rice, we do know that there are people that will be away for some portions of their deputy mayor duties, and then it usually just falls down the list to the next person on order. There is some swapping that goes on like that throughout the course of the year.
Okay.
Thanks, though, for highlighting that. Next was appointments to standing committees of council. Motion for those appointments. Councillor Rice.
I move that council accept the mayor's recommendations for the standing committees.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Any discussion or debate? As noted before, there were no changes. The intention would be at the midway point through this 4-year term that we would do some rotation to those so that everybody gets an opportunity to experience different committees of council. If there's no discussion or debate, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries, and that'll bring us to boards and committees. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. I move that that we approve the mayor's recommendations for boards and committees.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. And this was the section, as I noted, where Councillor O'Toole and Councillor Logan are swapping responsibilities for Peace Library System and disabled transportation. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. And then the last piece of business for our organizational meeting is the schedule of council and standing committee meetings. Ms. Williams, do you want to introduce this or highlight the periods where there's a break in the action, so to speak?
Okay, Mayor Gibbon, we have a few dates that are changed from the regular schedule of meetings. We have Remembrance Day on the 11th of November. So our Community Safety Committee and Corporate Services Committee meetings will be held on Monday, November 10th. Christmas break for council is from December 17th to January 5th of 2015 this year. Victoria Day, we have Monday, May 18th. Council meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 19th instead. And summer break for council will be from July 22nd, 2015 to August 7th, 2015. And Labor Day is Monday, September 7th. So council meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 8th. And it looks like the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meeting is June 5th to June 8th. And your AUMA meeting is September 23rd to 25th in Edmonton. And then next year, the organizational meeting will be held on Monday, October 19th.
Okay, thanks very much, Ms. Williams. We'd look for a motion to adopt that schedule of council and committee meetings. Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, Mayor Gibbon, I would recommend that we adopt this schedule.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on the council and standing committee meetings for October 20th, 2014 to October 2015? Seeing none, then I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion. Oh, would you like a re-vote, Councillor Toole? Sure. So we'll do a re-vote. Okay, we'll call for a re-vote then. We'll start the vote. Remember, if you're satisfied with the dates, that is a yes vote. Okay, and that motion carries. Thanks, Councillor. That's right. Thanks, Councillor Toole. We want to make sure that we get it right. That is, I believe, all the business for our organizational meeting. And so we will adjourn our organizational meeting. And with a very small break, more like just a pause, we'll call to order our regular City Council meeting for Monday, October 20th. We call the meeting to order and ask everyone in attendance to rise and join us in singing O Canada. Always thank you to the National Film Board for the images of our country and to our very own Grand Prairie Boys Choir for the audio. We'd move on to the adoption of the previous council meeting minutes. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I move that minutes of City Council meeting held October 6, 2014 be adopted.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Does it look like everything is in order and recorded properly? Seeing nobody ringing in, we will assume that it does, and I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. That take us to the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Thiessen.
Well, thank you, Mayor Bill. I move that council adopt the agenda as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Any discussion or debate on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion to adopt the agenda carries. That brings us to the delegation portion of our agenda. This is an opportunity that we have at every regular City Council meeting for anybody in the community to come forward and discuss any community matter or bring any matter to the attention of Council. I'm looking through our large audience, and I don't see anybody coming forward. I see a number of administration and the local media are there smiling away at Council, but I don't see anybody. Well, we haven't given them that much to laugh at yet, Councillor Rice, but I don't see anybody coming forward. This is an opportunity, of course, that we have at every regular City Council meeting for anybody in the community that would wish to come forward. And we just like to take the opportunity to remind the public that this opportunity exists. Seeing nothing there, I'll close the delegation portion of the agenda. We had no public hearings. We do have one item of unfinished business, 7.1, an item from the community growth meeting from September 23rd. Was that a piece of action that we had missed? Councillor O'Toole?
Mayor Given, this motion, there was some wording that needed to be updated. Didn't quite fit the legal department, I guess you might say. And so I have a motion to make. I move the council adopt the community garden edible landscaping policy 212. And in speaking with this motion, the policy recognizes food security as an important factor in our sustainability as a community. Community gardens aid in providing fresh fruit and vegetable, as well as teach members of our community how to garden. Administration has collaborated with the community and city departments to develop this policy, and procedures have been created for the community gardens. A handbook is being written for community groups to use when planning a community garden.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Toole. That motion is open for discussion and debate. Councillor Rice.
Some concerns have been expressed in the past on our community garden. Some people don't find it aesthetically pleasing. I guess I would be interested in, this is nice. It's almost like motherhood. I can't imagine you're going to grow a lot of fruits up here, maybe apples or plums or something. But Saskatoon, yeah, right. So I guess we haven't seen the criteria. And I would be interested in seeing that.
Councillor Rice, what criteria do you mean? So
Well, it says in here that there's some kind of a criteria has been established. Will meet established criteria. It says that, but
So I can certainly relate that at the committee, council did see the forms and the documentation that would go along for any neighborhood which wished to establish a community garden. So we did see that part. Administration did highlight for the edible landscaping portion of the policy that administration would be doing some further research about the most appropriate species to be planting, and then in the future would be updating that part of the procedures. So which portion of it, Councillor Rice, was it that you're looking for more info on?
how it needs to be fenced, how it needs to be screened. We don't have that kind of criteria.
Maybe I see Ms. Gardner's joined us at the administration table. Maybe she can speak to the outline. Sounds, Councillor Rice, your questions are more around community gardens, the community gardens portion of the policy.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Ms. Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor Given. In the procedure is where we have all of the criteria, and that contains information such as neighbors have to be consulted within a 250-meter radius so that they can ensure that all of the neighbors are on board. There is no fencing allowed unless it is required, so that because it is a public land and it's supposed to be accessible by all. They have to submit a design to ensure that all of administration is able to look at it. So it's not just a matter of a neighborhood picks a location and then can go ahead and plant it. They have to work with administration to ensure that it is meets the neighborhood standards.
Gardens tend to need water to grow. I would suspect the majority of city lands aren't hooked up to water.
Ms. Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Yes, that is correct. And one of the other criteria that is outlined in the procedure is how the neighborhood is planning to water, because exactly as you say, it is important that they have access to water, and they need to understand how much it's going to cost to bring water to a site. One of the suggestions from administration is that we look at sites that are close to neighborhood rink locations so that there's already water access there.
Councillor Rice, any other questions? Okay. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given, and I'm glad some of these questions are being asked. And there's some areas where neighborhood arenas aren't being put in the wintertime, which may be because they're supposed to be volunteer, and the water hookup is there. So I think it's a great idea if you go that way. And because for me personally, I have a gentleman in an area land I have wants to start a garden and come to our place and work our garden. So there is people that want to do it. I'm interested in the edible landscaping portion. I believe that hopefully administration, we're doing our 4-year budget. I know there's areas that walked in naturally in Annapolis Valley. It's not Annapolis Valley, but there is apples that do grow out here in species that the mayor was saying. So I am looking forward to some of this, and I think it can be worked really well if it's done right.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McLean. Any further discussion or debate? Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Mayor Given, it might be useful to have Michelle speak to I know the edible gardens or parks part of it. There isn't detail yet. It's more of a general statement, and I think there's a reason for that, and maybe Ms. Gardner might speak to that.
Ms. Gardner, would you like to speak to the edible landscaping portion of the policy?
Thank you, Mayor Given. When working with parks operations, we wanted to ensure that when we are putting edible landscaping in parks and on public lands, that we ensure that there's not a mixture of poisonous plant material or plant material that shouldn't be ingested close to plants such as apple trees, so that children are being confused between different kinds of berries. Also, we wanted to make sure that we were not placing like Saskatoon berries in an area where we're going to be attracting deer, and then that will add some other issues into a park that beyond what we have, especially with fencing. And the other part is when you talk about apple trees, if there's not anybody in the neighborhood picking them, and then it becomes a mess on the ground. So those were all things that they wanted to make sure were being taken into account. They have been adding the edible plant materials or shrubs and trees in throughout the city for a long period of time. They've had test locations. They've had grapes at the close to South Bear Creek Park. So this is not something that is relatively new. It's just something that they will be working on a larger scale.
Ms. Gardner, any further discussion or debate? Councillor McLean.
Michelle's comment might not be new, but really hasn't really been implemented. And we do have councillors on this council that want to see it actually proceeding and hopefully not being delayed.
Okay, any further discussion or debate? Seeing nobody else ringing in, then I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. We had no report items today. That would take us right to committee business. And our first item was 9.1, Council Committee of the Whole from October 6th. Councillor Radburn, would you care to move that set of minutes?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move council receive the minutes of the Council Committee of the Whole meeting held October 6th, 2014. These minutes, the agenda for the meeting basically was information skate park expansion that was referred to budget, and there were a number of community social development community group funding requests that council had previously requested further information. And based upon that information, council again made referrals to our budget process. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Don't see anybody ringing in or hands waving, so I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. And we would move on to item 9.2, the Community Growth Committee from October 7th. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I move that council receive the minutes of the Community Growth Committee meeting held on October 7th, 2014.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Does it look like it accurately reflects what happened at the meeting? It must. So I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor O'Toole, you had some business arising.
Yes, we had a couple of items that I want to bring up. First was, I move council approve of $4 million allocated to the industrial attraction strategy for the infrastructure development be invested in Aquaterra for the construction of 116th Street sewer trunk line between O'Brien Lake and Center West. And in speaking to this motion, the completion of the 116th Street trunk will service over 1,600 acres of land and will significantly influence the city's ability to attract industrial and commercial assessment. By investing in the sewer trunk line, we will ensure the ability for developers to cost effectively service land where and when it is needed in our northwest quadrant, further enhancing our competitiveness in the region and meeting the growth demands of industry.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor O'Toole, last piece of business?
Yes, I got one more. The Tour of Alberta. I move that council sign the hosting agreement to be the 2015 host community of the Tour of Alberta Prologue and include $250,000 to the 2015 operating budget, including gift in kind from city services. In speaking to this motion, the Tour of Alberta is a world-class event featuring the world's best cyclists. The race will be broadcast on Rogers Sportnet, ESPN, and other international channels to an audience of 41 million worldwide, with an estimated economic impact of $24 million.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. And I was just discussing with the city manager, I think the intent of the motion, as was discussed at the committee, was actually $250,000 cash plus gift in kind on top. And I wonder if maybe in the motion we could just clarify that, because it might appear to say 250 including gift in kind. And certainly I think the intent was that any gift in kind is actually on top of the $250,000 in cash. So maybe it should be, rather than including gift in kind, it should be plus gift in kind.
Friendly amendment.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Rice.
Going to ask for that clarification because the report says plus and the motion is shows including. So thank you. But do we have any idea how much the gift in kind, what the price tag of the gift in kind is? How extensive is it?
Sure. Councillor O'Toole, you're not on there, so if you want to speak to it.
Yeah, there's a number of things that will have to come up in the future, and I can get Mr. Glavin here, our economic development, to speak on some of the things that have come up in conversation. He's part of that organizing committee.
Brian, would you like to speak to the types of items and potential sort of high-level costs that administration foresees?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we're going to be asked for in-kind contributions are police services, public works, and road services. So that would be around making sure that the route is without cars for the period of time of the duration of the race. Spectator first aid, notification to residents and businesses, portable toilets, waste management, permitting services, overnight security, and wired and wireless internet. The intent is to use our fundraising dollars to pay for as much of the additional costs as possible, and then the city services would be in kind. We do not have a quantification yet of exactly what the services will be, as the Tour of Alberta representatives will be here November 10th and 11th to assess the route and the location of the prologue start and finish.
You said...
Sorry?
You said fundraising dollar. What fundraising dollars?
So as part of the event, we'll be fundraising for the festival portion of the event, which depending on how our fundraising goes, there could be additional dollars over and above the cost of putting on the festival that could be used to offset the costs of holding the event.
Sorry?
This is an exciting event. However, I'm reluctant to vote for it unless I had some sort of quantification on the cost. I mean, some of the things that were noted, like porta potties, spectator first aid, we don't have those in-house. That would mean we would be having to hire them out. I just have some concerns.
I do see others in the queue, so we'll move through the discussion and debate. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I'm very concerned about this. I'm not for the $250,000. I do believe we got to start trimming not to be adding to our debt and extra money. I would be in forward for an amendment, like to make an amendment of just for operating budget, including just gift in kind from city services. No 250,000. Delete the 250,000. That's an amendment I'd like to make.
I'm not going to accept that as an
Fine.
amendment. That actually changes the fundamental nature of the motion. So it would actually be to vote against the motion, and then there could be a follow-up motion if that was your intent. But that fundamentally changes.
Okay, so I'll speak to, I hope council votes against this motion. And we've had some news today, and we got to start looking at a lot of different things. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. Councillor Rice, turn your microphone on.
Did we not commit the 250 already? It
Yes.
seemed to me at a previous motion, like we can't change that now because we've already given our word, right?
Well, that's essentially the case. Council has seen this concept of participating in this a number of times. And at each stage, I think we were made aware of the cost in terms of cash contribution that was going to be required. And I think Council supported our participation in the Tour of Alberta on the basis of that cash contribution. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor, I don't see, Councillor Rice, don't see anybody else in the queue. Is there any further discussion or debate on the motion? I just would highlight that I believe the County of Grand Prairie is going to be hosting stage 1, and I believe, or sorry, I'll ask, Mr. Glavin, has the County of Grand Prairie approved their funding contribution for their portion of the event?
Yes, the County of Grand Prairie has approved $250,000 plus in kind for the hosting of stage 1 of the Tour of Alberta.
Thanks very much, Mr. Glavin. Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, I'd just like to make one comment. The prologue is going to be in and around the city, so individuals, citizens of Grand Prairie and surrounding area will be able to see the competition from various spots in the city. It's not like it's going to be the road race where you sit there and you get your location, they go by, and that's over with. We have the possibility of seeing the riders go numerous times in the circuit. That's what the organizers want to do. And these are the people that have been into Tour de France and other high-ranking tours throughout the world. And it would be, I think it'd be an honor to host this and put the city of Grand Prairie back on the map again.
Okay.
Not that we are not off on the map, but a highlighted affair.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any further discussion or debate? I don't see anybody else in the queue, so I'll call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor O'Toole, anything else you wanted to highlight from that meeting?
I don't. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. That'll take us to community living for October 7th. And Councillor Radburn, I believe that was your set of minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move the council receive the minutes of the Community Living Committee meeting held October 7th, 2014.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? I don't see anybody ringing in, so I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move a couple of motions came out of committee. First one is that I would move council approve the proposed changes to the Schedule B of the Peace Library System Master Agreement. Basically, that agreement increases per capita contributions to the Peace Library System in years 2016, 2017, and 2018 of 5% each year. 2014, 2015 stays the same. And as you have information in our package tonight, really it's for a number of reasons, and I'll just highlight a few of them. First of all, we want to maintain present service levels. We want to keep up with inflation. By we, I'm referring to the Peace Library System. We know it. Peace Library System wants to address depleted reserves for vehicles, IT, and building maintenance. We're going to keep our staff in terms of staff retention, and the other factor is obviously the provincial library funding has not increased since 2009. So we have to send this back in terms of support or not. And pending what happens with this motion, then the appropriate dollars will be put in our budget for budget deliberations. It'll be about, in those 3 years, about $17,000 to $20,000 each year increase. Thank you.
Councillor Radburn, any discussion or debate on the motion? Again, I don't see anybody ringing in, so I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn?
Thank you. Second motion, it would be that I would move council approve the request to partner with the County of Grand Prairie in the Alberta Community Partnership Grant Program for the development of a regional recreation master plan. So the intent with this is that we would work with the county, and it would be a dual request to this Alberta Community Partnership Grant Program is what we used to know as the Regional Collaboration Grant monies. This would serve a couple of, I think, very critical purposes. One, it would look at the region and our regional capacity to support whatever recreations are in the master plan. And secondly, it speaks to the regional delivery of those services. So if we can be more coordinated and the sharing of the capacity that's needed to offer recreation programs, I think that's a good thing. We're talking about, Gary, I was just talking to Gary, there's been a request for interest initially. The range, but I would think that 200,000 to 200,000, 250,000 probably would be about it. But we would tailor the ask to the grant to whatever that cost would be. So, the other point that I wanted to make is that part of this partnership would be that the other municipalities within the County of Grand Prairie would be a part of the study and development of the master plan as well. So we're getting truly our regional municipalities involved in this recreation master plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on the motion? I don't see anybody in the queue, so I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Rice, did you have a question?
When he's done his report, I have a question for him.
Sure. Councillor Radburn, would you like to report on any other items of business from that committee?
Appreciate it. The other parts, the other components or items on our agenda were some referrals to budget. One was $75,000 for a feasibility study for the Performing Arts Center, a future Performing Arts Center. The other two, one was a low-income recreation access grant. We had been providing $100 per individual that qualified, and we are including, we've moved that up to $300 for those credits. And secondly, in terms of low-income transit access, we have we're recommending, or we've put forward to budget, free transit passes to qualifying low-income individuals. So that's a new support that the city would be providing. And finally, there was a request to administration to look into provincial funding for arts and community groups. Apparently there have been some changes to the Alberta Foundation for the Arts and bingo funding as it relates to funding for the arts. And so we'd like some information back on that because that could be a potential advocacy priority for our council. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Rice, do you have a question?
In your minutes, you passed a motion to directing administration to, no, just a minute here, I'm sorry, I took my finger off it. Direct administration to advise the surrounding municipalities of our low-income pass. Where is it now? Okay, I just don't understand why, why?
I think that was mainly to inform our neighbors what we're doing, and they can use that information as they feel fit. But we just wanted to let them know how we're supporting low-income individuals in our city.
If I remember correctly, from the committee meeting, there was also mention from administration that there were, when they did the review of the program, by following up with the people who accessed it, one of the comments that was received more than once or a number of times, I guess, was this is really great. What if I live outside of the city, or I know somebody that lives outside of the city that might like to be able to qualify for this? And obviously the program only applies to City of Grand Prairie residents. So we thought that it would be useful to pass on the comments to other municipalities about the level of interest there was from their residents in a similar type of program.
Basically, just saying, you know.
Give them a heads up.
Yeah, give them a heads up. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I don't see anything else. Councillor Edward, thanks very much for the updates and the motions. And we move on to 9.4, the Corporate Services Committee meeting. And Councillor Tarrant, are you going to handle that one for us today? Thank you.
So I will move that the minutes of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held October 14th, 2014 be approved.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Seeing none, then I will call for the vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Tarrant.
And we have one recommendation coming out of the committee. So I will move that the use of Aquaterra Class A dividends policy 353 be approved. And then speaking to this policy, the intent was that we would take a portion of the dividends that we get from Aquaterra, so the discretionary ones, and direct them directly to wastewater water and wastewater projects, and that the money would be tied in the future to those projects and to only those projects.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I will not be supporting this motion. As I spoke at committee, I certainly support that at times we have to strategically support for our industrial attraction strategy some infrastructure development, but I prefer it not be done through policy that dedicates these funds to a particular service. I think that it should be done at budget time, as was done with our $4 million that we I guess chose to allocate during council today. That was done at budget time. So I would prefer that these items be looked at in the context of all the needs and requests and asks when we look at budget. I certainly support them being put there for our discussion, but that is when we prioritize and make those decisions. The policy would dedicate those funds to that on an ongoing basis. I would prefer that it be done through the budget. A couple of other comments I would make. I think that one of the possible pluses of such a policy stated that maybe it would help connect and the revenues we get for our public to the service. And I think that is possible. My perspective there would be that when the public considers Aquaterra, this is what comes up. One, are rates competitive? And one, are rates competitive? What's my other? And is the service excellent? I think that's what's important to our residents. I'm not sure the connection of any of our dividends to any particular service they provide is as important as that. And I know Aquaterra in their business planning is trying to do two of the first things. In terms of our accountability, I think the report card is our budget process and how we choose to make decisions about the revenues we have at our disposal. And I think that's where we can make those choices in terms of what we think is which investments will best serve the needs and wants of our community members. And I think I would like the flexibility to look at that in the context of everything at budget time. I think I'll pause. That'll be enough for now, Mayor Gibbon.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Edburn. Councillor McLean.
Mayor Given. I won't be supporting this as well, as Councillor Radburn just spoke on quite well. We do get surprises on council. We had some today, and this will actually, by not supporting this, it gives us flexibility of budget.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. Any other discussion or debate? I will take an opportunity to speak in support of the motion. I support the concept for one of the reasons Councillor Radburn mentioned. Certainly, I think it's important that the public understand that the growth and success of Aquaterra is a positive and that it has a direct positive benefit to them. For years, the City of Grand Prairie and Aquaterra have been really direct in saying that Aquaterra dividends are money that would otherwise, the city would have to either cut services or raise taxes to generate the same amount of revenue or to keep taxes at the same level. But that's a really challenging line to draw for residents, and I think it's important that we have a more direct connection. That's one reason why I support the policy. The other reason that I support the policy is because any direct city investment in Aquaterra will yield, after a 2-year period where for the investment to vest in the corporation, will yield a 5% automatic return on that investment. And so this has an opportunity for the City of Grand Prairie to use its discretionary dividends to reinvest in the corporation, to reinvest in physical infrastructure that improves our ability to compete and replace infrastructure in Grand Prairie, and at the same time generate more future revenue based on the return on that investment. So I think that there's a lot of positives. I appreciate the perspective about having all city resources available at once to view them at budget. That's a reasonable position. I have a pretty good level of confidence that, particularly through this budget cycle, we're going to have more than enough water and wastewater infrastructure that we will be able to use, well, that the discretionary dividends from Aquaterra will be a small portion of that. I have a relative level of confidence. I could be proven wrong, but given council's focus on the downtown core, I think we certainly will have, through this budget cycle, room to make that investment in Aquaterra in accordance with this policy. And it wouldn't surprise me if administration was looking for some more on top of that. So for all those reasons, I support the policy. I think it's a virtuous cycle that makes that direct connection for residents between the growth and success of Aquaterra and improvements in city infrastructure. Any other discussion or debate? I don't see anybody else in the queue, so I will call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. And so we'll move on to, actually to ask if there are any other items of business. Councillor Tarrant? Okay, thanks, Councillor Tarrant. We had no items of correspondence tonight, no delegations, no notices of motion. But that does take us to council member reports from our agencies, boards, and commissions. And we'll start with the commission first, the Combative Sports Commission. Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Given. Just a short little blurb here. The Combative Sports Commission will be overseeing an event here on Friday. It'll be held at the Edtrek Center. Local promoter, Excessive Force, will be hosting the event, and there will be a weigh-in at Egan McSwiggan's on Thursday evening.
Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Did you also want to do Grand Prairie Airport Commission?
Yes, I can sure do that. We had a meeting on October 16th. We went over some quarterly financial statements and revenue and expenditure budgets, capital plan and improvement fees. We're discussing that, naming of roads in other areas of the airport, something to do with the parks in the city of Grand Prairie. We had a number of individuals that had a major tie with the airport back when the airport was first developed, and we're developing a policy, and sometime in early December we should have some names associated to roads and buildings and stuff like that out at the airport.
Great. Thanks, Councillor O'Toole.
I just want to also highlight that in this last year we had a 7% increase in passenger service, which is quite high for Canada. The average is around less than 4%, and there are many airports that have actually shown less than that, where 0 increase. So we're doing good.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Radburn, I think you had Tourism Association.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just two or three highlights from our October 9th Grand Prairie Regional Tourism Association board meeting. We had a presentation from George Jacob with respect to update on the Dinosaur Museum. Really appreciate it. I think that's the first time that we've had that kind of connection and that dialogue with a staff member of the museum, and I think that's positive. And we talked about ensuring that we work together to market that valuable asset that our region will have. Also, just talk about AGM, I think, is November 19th, and so yours truly volunteered to be on the nominating committee, and so a couple of us are working on getting a nomination slate for that AGM in November. And we also chose to support an initiative from within our present budget where we would survey and consult with our members relative to what are their service priorities for GPRTA, how are we doing, and how can we improve. So I think that's something that came from our strategic plan, that member services has received the attention that it needs, and this is a way where we can get some good input so that we can look forward in improving service. Thank you, Mayor Given.
Thanks, Councillor Redburn. Councillor Thiessen, you had the library board.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. I did. We recently took on our, well, I guess we had our library board meeting. Part of that was taking on and ratifying our plan of service, of which we had worked so hard the previous month in doing and passed through with flying colors. We also received an update on the renovations to the expansion space, which is now temporarily being called our new community wing. And we will be receiving a tour at the next meeting. And also we cleaned up some policies, one of which we are researching into a little bit more is creating a risk management policy as well. So we'll be discussing that probably very much so at the next meeting.
Thanks for the update, Councillor Thiessen. You also had Mighty Peace Watershed, I believe. Oh, Councillor Rice, you had a question?
On the library, when you do the expansion, well, is that going to include the Rotary Room so it can have technology? Go ahead, tell me. So you can go in there and conferencing abilities. Like right now, there's no equipment in that room, and it would be nice if it was there, even if it was for rent.
Actually, no, we haven't broached the expansion of technology into the Rotary meeting room. Basically, it is just an unused portion that went undeveloped when the library and the Montrose Cultural Center was put together, and we're just updating that so we can do more programming, and we are adding more technology in there. So it does open the room for youth programming as well as other presentations too, but nothing to the Rotary room.
Thank you.
Councillor Thiessen, do you want to speak to the Peace Watershed?
Sure. All right. Mighty Peace Watershed Alliance sat down last week on the 16th. We set out our terms of reference, which we're working forward on that. And these are just to lay out how we're going to, the things we're going to be focusing on through our State of the Watershed. And some of the terms of reference that we thought were most important in dealing with the Peace River watershed was non-saline groundwater, as well as water quality and availability from the main stem, wetlands and wetland loss, and how we can mitigate that, Peace River flow regime, and the consumptive use of fresh water from industry. And in speaking to that last point, one of our board members, also a member of Encana, Lindsay Stevens, gave us a presentation on Encana's water management strategy and how they are going to be working in tangent with the Alberta Energy Regulator, of which we also had another presenter from the Alberta Energy Regulator, known as AER, from Leanne Chartrand, and talking about play-based consultation and development. We also, I do have to add that we are moving forward with our State of the Watershed. We have our draft all ready to go, and we are going to be doing community consultations, and those are beginning as of October 28th in Grand Cache, and we're going to be traveling to the whole north. That part of the tour will come here through Grand Prairie on the 5th of November at the Muskosipi Pavilion, so anyone who's interested in seeing the the state of the watershed and what we have. If you want to ask questions or just educate yourself, I welcome you to that event here at the Muskasuit Pavilion on November 5th.
Thanks for the update, Councillor Thiessen. And back to Councillor O'Toole. I believe you had an update for us on the Dinosaur Museum.
Yes, just a short one. On end of this month, the 30th, we will be having our final building committee meeting. We're going to have a walkthrough with PCL, and we'll just see where things are. And so I can tell you by about the 20th of November, the building will be what you would call finals completed. Just waiting for the pieces to go in. So just to give you an update in case anybody's wondering how the museum's doing, the site should be cleaned by the end of 15th of December. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. And Councillor O'Toole, why don't we start Council Roundtable with you?
Thank you very much. On October 8th, I attended the Grand Prairie Public School District Education Foundation 14th Annual Striving for Excellence Awards. I was very proud on a number of reasons. My granddaughter was one of the recipients. I represented the city there, and I'm very proud that this event takes place. And I'm very proud that gentleman beside me here, Lauren Radburn, was one of the founding people to create this process. There was a gentleman named Alex Zahara, who was a past student of Mr. Radburn's, and throughout the night he commented on how much of an influence that Mr. Radburn made in his life, both as an educator and as superintendent. So pretty proud moment that I get to share the bench with Mr. Radburn. Last week, we attended the second naming of the parks. Once again, a very tearful event. Lots of very happy people, unexpectedly and joyful about having put some effort into the city over the years, recognized by having a park. Today, I attended the Small Business Week kickoff at the Center 2000. Number of nominations, and they all are well-deserved nominations. And this afternoon, I attended a company that was a small business at one time, 911 Industrial. Jeff and Tanya Brewster, who had started that 11 years ago with 3 vehicles and a number of staff, and now they've got over 100 vehicles. And I don't know if there would be a small business anymore or not, but they've got a huge impact in the community in Grand Prairie. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Rice.
Okay, from AUMA's perspective, I have meetings set up with ministers Oberle, Kahn, MacGyver, and Buller. So we will be looking at those various areas. Over the past couple of weeks, I attended the dinner with APEGA. When they were here, that's the professional engineers and geoscientists, thank you. I attended the Bear Creek Golf Course as part of the 100th anniversary celebration, honored a new family to Grand Prairie, someone who had been here, who moved here in the last year and has integrated into the community, and they were able to tell why they were happy they moved to Grand Prairie. So congratulations to them. As Councillor O'Toole mentioned, we did our second round of parks naming, extremely gratifying event. Attended the ribbon cutting for the Cultural Diversity Institute at the city on 99th, an excellent program, and I think somewhat unique, and certainly it's aimed at youth, and they talked about how sometimes immigrant youth feel that sense of isolation, maybe defiance, and so they're going to be working with families and with children. And we were asked about duplication of services, and there isn't any. They will be working closely with the other organizations in town. I attended the Chamber of Commerce Small Business kickoff this morning, and congratulations to all those that are nominated. And that's my report.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. Yes, most of the events that have already been mentioned between my two council mates, I was at, but just to touch base again, I was at the Grand Prairie Public School District Education Foundation Striving for Excellence Awards. I was there as deputy mayor, and I did get to sit with the man, the myth, and the legend himself, Lord Radburn, at that table. He's held in very high esteem amongst his peers in the education. And it was also great. I had a couple of young friends that were receiving awards that night too. So it was double good for me. I also attended the Bear Creek Golf and Country Club's winning family reception and the unveiling of the Centennial Stone plaque for that family there. I got to pull the curtain, which is one of the perks of being a deputy mayor, I guess. On the 16th, I also was at the Crime Prevention Lodge of the CIA Cultural Integration Academy program, and I got to speak on behalf of the mayor as well there. And then from there, I went on to the parks naming event as well. But what is really awesome, what I did this past week was something that happened just on Friday, where I was asked to take your worship's spot at the Northern Alberta Mayors and Reeves Caucus in Edmonton. It was an excellent event. There's a few topics, but they were thoroughly discussed. We also had Diana McQueen that was there from Municipal Affairs, and she was giving us an update on the Building Canada Fund and how the provincial government is helping to lobby for towns under 100,000 people to be able to receive the grant monies before it's too late. And she said she's working very, very hard. She also mentioned starting the MGA review, but she said the last time they changed the Municipal Government Act, it took them about 7 years. So don't expect quick changes, but she said hopefully within the next 2 to 5 years we'll have some kind of change. From there, we did municipal Aboriginal relations and reconciliation. It was a presentation by the City of Edmonton and the Mayor, Don Iverson, on how we can reconcile our past grievances that we have done upon the Aboriginal populations, and also how we can work them back into our culture. And speaking of that, working people into our culture, we also heavily discussed the Temporary Foreign Workers Program as well, which the direction was given to the Mayor of Edmonton on behalf of all mayors and reeves of Northern Alberta to write another letter to the federal government and try to get them to turn their heads back towards helping out businesses within the province of Alberta. That is my report.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Councillor Rice, did you have something?
This is a follow-up to Councillor Thiessen's report. I have every reason to believe the province will be signing off on the Build Canada Fund on Friday, October 24th.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Appreciate it. October 7th, I attended, it was basically a charity for IWIN, it's called, Intercultural Women of Education Network. And I thought it was very important to bring it up is that some ladies out there, they don't have rights as soon as they're born in some countries, and they raise some money, and it basically helps the young ladies for getting a loan to buy a goat or this and that, and then they raise it and sell it and pay off the loan. It's important. Since I'm the only male except for my cat in my house, and they sold scarves to raise money for this, and my girls wear it to school quite proudly. And I want them to grow up and be very proud of being ladies. And Canada is different than a lot of other countries in the world. So I was very proud to go to it. October 16th, I missed a couple other meetings because we were at Pursuit of Excellence. And we don't have very much left in the kitty. That'll come next council, but a lot got this put out on October 16th. And then today I'll just speak to a couple of them. We had a council committee of the whole meeting, which is being talked about lots in our community. It was a big meeting. And then the one I was very proud of is an early morning Small Business Week proclamation. I believe there's quite a few, I could be wrong this number, 2/3 individuals worked for small businesses in Canada. I could be corrected, but there's quite a bit. And I was saying to one gentleman, we were talking, I remember Magnum Electric, who's been around 50-some years, used to be Frank Beagle, used to own it, and he's passed now, and I used to know him quite well. And I was sitting with the new owner, Tim, and as we were talking, he didn't even tell me he's one of the nominees up for Small Business Friday Night Awards. So I was quite proud of that fact, and I was glad to be there this morning at Sarah 2000. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I also attended the APEGA President's Visit, and just a couple things I wanted to comment about it. One, that our staff was well represented at the function, and the President spoke a lot about social license and what the organization has to do to ensure that they maintain to be self-regulating. I thought that was quite interesting and topical. As was mentioned, I thank you for the kind comments. I did attend the Striving for Excellence dinner. Sandy Zahara, so he's an actor and is doing very well. He's doing very well. He's I guess been in films, etc., with a number of more well-known, but I think he's doing well in terms of a chosen career for himself, and he's doing some mentoring and some teaching as well. So I was pleased to see another graduate of the school district doing well in various parts of life. Also attend the new Family of the Year Award, and so I want to thank Bear Creek Golf Course Ownership for that initiative. I think they were the sponsor, and I think good for them. It's something that will continue on an annual basis, and so I think it's they espouse to be a family golf course, and I think this is one way where they're kind of walking the talk, so good for them. I also attended the Crime Prevention Cultural Integration Academy announcement. It's for youth, but also families, and we received some money from the province to do a 2-year pilot, I believe, right? 2-year pilot, and so we'll be able to look at what successes we can garner from that program. And I want to particularly commend Angela for her, I guess, initiative in seeking out the money and developing the program. Parks naming ceremony. Congrats to our committee, Helen and Chris and Kevin and Terry, doing good work. Yeah, what's not good about celebrating community and individuals in our community in an event like that? So I really enjoyed it. And finally, I also attended the Small Business Week proclamations, and they really have kind of an action-packed week, the Chamber, to recognize Small Business Week. So congratulations on the Chamber for their efforts in that regard. Thank you.
Councillor Hepburn and Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Just lots been said. I'll just highlight a couple here. The parks naming, I think it was a wonderful initiative. I got a chance to talk to several families that evening, and they were just truly honored by it. And so kudos to the 100th Anniversary Committee for the great idea and for the legacy that it's going to leave. On the 15th, I was able to attend the Canadian Home Builders annual general meeting, and it was good to catch up with local leaders in the industry and just find out some of their concerns. And there was also provincial reps from the Canadian Home Builders Association, and so it's good to chat with them, find out what's happening at the provincial scene, and so made some good connections, and great event. I'll leave it at that.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. I guess that would bring it back around to me. I'll just briefly highlight a couple of the items. On the 8th, I had the pleasure of making a proclamation for cerebral palsy awareness. It was a pleasure to welcome Jaden and his mom Wendy to City Hall, to the Mayor's office. Jaden took the entire proclamation and only let me say the part with my name in it, but it was a pleasure to have him here, a delightful young man. I also had the opportunity on the 14th to draw the winning ticket for a trip for two with WestJet on behalf of Big Brothers Big Sisters. This is in third or fourth year that they've run this fundraiser, and it sells out every year. An important fundraiser for their program, and want to recognize the work that they do in our community, and also WestJet for supporting them in that fundraiser. And then on the 16th, I was in Jasper for the Alberta Congress Boards conference. I was there to do an opening keynote with Treasury Minister and Education Minister Jim Dinning. The theme of the conference was a new generation of leadership, and so Mr. Dinning and I each did a little bit of an introduction about our views on leadership, and then we did a moderated panel, which was really interesting. It was my first introduction to the Alberta Congress Board. It's a really interesting organization. The attendees are drawn from a really wide range of government organizations, labor unions, and just interested Albertans. So it was an organization I didn't know anything about. I was really interested to be there. And one of the people that I sat next to was a reeve from a county in southern Alberta. Had an interesting chance to have a conversation about local government, the future of local government. And so it was a worthwhile event to attend to promote the city of Grand Prairie and some of the things administration does to help develop our future leaders within the organization. And then on the 20th, as has been mentioned by a number of members of council, it was my pleasure to, with Leanne Beaupre, Reeve Leanne Beaupre from the County of Grand Prairie, proclaim the 20th to the 24th, the Small Business Week in the Grand Prairie region. This is one of a couple of proclamations that the city and the county do together on a regular basis. I think it goes to show that certainly business knows no municipal boundaries. And later on, starting actually November 1st, we'll be doing another joint proclamation for the Prevention of Family Violence month. And so it's good to be able to do those things with the County of Grand Prairie when the opportunity comes up. And unless there's anything else, I will call our meeting adjourned.